Hello sanibonani babukeli sinamukele kwintandokazi yohlelo la namhlanje ilungelo lakho it's your right silethela lona lolu hlelo ke la kumamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure kanti indaba ezinhle futhi umbukeli sisiyatholakala futhi lapha ku SABC Plus. Yes, you can go on your app uvule u SABC Plus uzombona umajali lapho lona ke umajali uMangcolosi ngithi nje umbukeli uyazi na ukuthi imoto mhlawumbe owawuyithengise iminyaka eminingi eyadlula ingaza ukuthi ikulethele inkinga eziningi uze phela uyithole usulahlekelwa ephaketheni uma phela ungaqedanga ukuyibhalisa egameni lalomuntu oyithengile asingene phakathi kwalolu daba. Yes, Mbogeli, the administrative risks that motorists often overlook or leave until too late when selling a car can actually come back to haunt you years after the actual sale. Traffic fines, criminality, as well as other costly risks that are associated with, of course, failing to properly change the ownership can also follow you as the previous owner or even the new owner if you are not fully registered. Manje ke mbukele ukukhuluma kabanzi ngodaba lethu la namhlanje masamukele ubaba uSimon Zwane niyamazi ke yena ubuya lapha Road Traffic Management Corporation. We also welcome Mr. Warren Tucker. Yena ke he's an independent car dealer. Bazobe besichazela mbukele ukuthi yipi izinto ekumele uzazi wena if uthenga imoto privately okusho ukuthi awungena ebanki uyithenga ku Alisha uyithenga ku Baba Tucker noma uyithenga ku Baba Zwane. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon to both of you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Tucker. Let's start with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Baba Zwane.
Sanibonani.
Kunjani Baba Zwane?
Siphile njani?
Siyaphila Baba Zwane. Baba Zwane, I mean, I think sake sakhuluma ngale ndaba yokuthi kumele kushintshwe ama license kushintshwe in but yini ocabanga ukuthi abantu abakayazi mayelana nokuthi iprocess iyahluka uma uthenga imoto emntwini lokho esikubiza ngeprivate sale as compared to uma uthenga imoto ebank?
Ziningi kakhulu izinto kufanele uziqaphele uma ngabe uthenga imoto emntwini. Ngoba kungenzeka ukuthi udayiselwe imoto entshontshiwe.
Yeah.
Kungenzeka ukuthi le moto ibe bandakanye ebugebengwini.
Yebo.
So kufanele uqaphele kakhulu lezo zinto uma ngabe uzothenga imoto enjengaleyo. Kuyaye kube advisable ukuthi imoto yakhona uyihambise nasemaphoyiseni ukuthi bakubhekele yona ukuthi ngabe le moto le imoto efanelekile na akuchangewanga mhlambe i-VIN number ayitemporarywanga engine numbers zisase njengoba kufanele zibe njalo ukuthi le moto azange ibe khona ebugebengwini obuthizeni kusukela lapho ke usungaqala ukuthi uyithenge le moto umnikazi wayo akunikeza amaphepha wayo uhambe uyoregister kwi-registering authority njenge-owner entsha yaleyo moto.
Okay, all right.
Kodwa kuzafuneka futhi bakwenza lokho ibe ne-roadworthy certificate bangahle bayifune bayibhalisa lapha angeke baqedele kuyibhalisa uma ingekho i-roadworthy certificate, so you take it for roadworthiness testing as well.
Okay, Mr. Tucker, I mean, maybe let's hear from you. Let's backtrack a little bit. What exactly, how do we define a private sale of a vehicle? How does it differ from me walking into a dealer, asking finance through the bank and so forth?
So essentially what happens there is it's you buying a motor vehicle from an individual. You're not buying it from a company, you're buying it directly from the owner of the vehicle or an individual person, right? Remember that when you purchase a vehicle from a dealership, the CPA covers you for 6 months.
Yes.
Right? So if there are any defects in that vehicle for the first 6 months of ownership, you're going to take that vehicle right back to the dealer and the dealer is going to have to help you. When you purchase a vehicle from a private individual, the vehicle is sold as is, right? But normally what happens is when you sell the vehicle, you will draw up a contract to the person that's purchasing the vehicle. They will sign, and basically what that contract will say is that the vehicle was purchased on such and such a day from this individual. This is the amount that was paid. The vehicle was sold as is, right? So what that means is that that vehicle is sold just the way you see the vehicle there.
Kind of like in an auction. Warren?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So what would happen is the onus is on you as the buyer to make sure that you are happy with what it is that you are doing, right? Now, there's a couple of things that you can do if you are intent on purchasing the vehicle privately. You can say to the seller, you'd like to send the vehicle for a DECRA test. Okay. It's going to cost $600 or so thereabout. But what that's going to do is you're going to have an independent person look at that motor vehicle. And they're going to tell you if there are any defects on the vehicle. And then the choice is yours to either use the defects as a bargaining chip to maybe try and get some money off the price of the vehicle. Or if you are still going to take the vehicle, you're going into that fully aware of what's happening in terms of you know exactly what's going on with that car, you know where your spend is going to be.
I see. So, babuzwane, mase sikhuluma nge-registration ke usuyithengile imoto kubabuthaka usekumele uyithathe ke manje imaphi ilokhuzana ama-steps ekumele uwalandele ukuthi wena uyoyiregister le moto. Imina oyiregistayo or ngihamba nawe as a previous owner ukuthi siyoregister le moto?
No, ungaya wedwa uyibhalisa imoto.
Okay.
Yeah, so ugcwalisa lamaphepha we-change of ownership, uhambise ne-ID number, copy ye-ID, proof of residence.
Imininingwane yami basically. Lo muntu engithenga kuyena iza nini ngoba phela imoto yakhe le.
Uzokunika zona, fanele akunike yona imininingwane yakhe mayikudayisela imoto.
Okay.
Ukuze ukwazi ukuthi uhambe nayo nale yakho imininingwane uhambe kuyibhalisa le moto ibe segameni lakho. Kodwa kufanele ukwenze lokho within 21 days.
Okay.
Yeah, ibese iba shintshelwe egameni lakho.
But then, I mean, there's many incidents. I mean, I know a lot of people with cars, Warren, and they literally still sitting. 4 years later, it was private sales. The car is still not registered. They were actually glad we're doing this show because they were asking, how do I change ownership? I can't get hold of the owner now. I no longer have the details of the owner. He can't even go and change the disc of the motor vehicle because obviously it needs all the relevant information from the previous owner. So what is the thought process when we're talking about these things and literally saying to the owner, I'm not giving you a cent up until I've got all your details and everything has been transferred in my name?
Yes.
So how does one go about doing that?
Okay, so on that point, right, if you've sold the vehicle and you've lost the documents for this individual, whoever's purchased the vehicle,
you're
going to have to do a couple of things. Number one, you're going to have to make sure that the license is paid up in full. Then you go to the license department. You can get runners that do this for you, these Q4U companies. They will log a sale mark on that vehicle as buyer unknown.
Okay.
What that does is takes the vehicle off your name. You won't be liable for the next year's license fees. However, right, the person that purchased that vehicle, when they do eventually show up to register that car in that name, their first stop is they'll have to go to Lakho, a testing station, and they will have to reintroduce the vehicle from there.
What?
And that is a lengthy process for them because that process, the original process of transferring the vehicle from the seller to the new owner was not completed. So that's what would happen.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's no prescription of that because since the 21 days has lapsed, I mean, let's say he's coming back 3 years later, he's saying maybe the owner was not forthcoming with the documents and so forth. So he just ended up driving the car because, wow, he had already paid for it.
Yes, but understand something that both the duty falls on both sides of the
seller and the buyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because as much as it's the seller's duty all the seller needs to do is fill out a form that basically takes the vehicle off his name and takes it and puts it onto that person's name. It's a sale document, right? It's your NCO form, right? Once you've done that, as far as the license department's concerned, they are saying that Warren no longer owns the vehicle, right? The new person that has purchased the vehicle now owns it, and we are waiting for them to come and register the vehicle. They will have to do a roadworthy on the vehicle, present the roadworthy documents and the original RC1 form, and do the change of ownership.
Oh, wow. We're going to talk about those RC1 forms and whatever forms you need after this break, Warren. Mbukeli, ungasifonela-ke ngizovula ingcingo emva kwaleli khefu. Sikhuluma ngokuthi uma wena uthenga imoto kumajali noma kubaba Warren noma kubaba Zwani, iziphi imigomo ekumele uyilandele ukuze phela ungayitholi wena ungasakwazi ukuyoshintsha idisk, ungasakwazi ukwenza next. Basically usuhamba ngecala wena. Ilungelo lakho back shortly after this ngayindawo. Back live nelungelo lakho mbukeli. Namhlanje ke sikhuluma ngokuthi wena mangabe uthenga imoto kumuntu ungangenanga ebank noma kwi dealership, iziphi imigomo ekumele uyilandele mbukeli, ngoba kuthiwa mningi ngempela lemniningwane and lemniningwane kumele yenziwe within 21 days ukuze ukwazi ukuthi nawe othenga imoto ube ne peace of mind, nalo kuthengisela imoto abe ne peace of mind. My guest today, Mr. Simon Zwane ovela RTMC, alongside Mr. Warren Taka. Yena ke he's an independent car dealer. Now, Babu Zwane, we're talking about ukuthi kunama forms la amaningi. I'm going to get back to Warren so that he can explain like all the forms that in totality owadinga uLokhuza. Let's say now uLokhuzana umuntu okuthengisela imoto akanawo yena lama documents lawa owadingayo wena as the new owner. Kusetshenzwa kanjani lapho Babu Zwane, because these are some of the complaints as well where you hear umuntu uthi no but ngithenga imoto ngimele iLokhuzana ama-native documents from ubaba or iLokhuzana certificate of ownership, of which we know is certificate of ownership you're not going to get it until you've settled the bank. So some people try ukuthi badayise lezi imoto on the sly without notifying ibank and without notifying and going through all the proper channels. So how do you then umuntu umfosta kanjani as the original owner ukuthi lalela baba nanka ama documents ekumele unginikeze wona and angiyikhokheli le moto up until unginikeza wona?
Yeah, exactly, njengobusho. You put your foot down and say, until you give me the documents, engizosebenzisa ukubhalisa le moto, angikhokheli, because fanele akunikeze lawo ma-document mayidayisa imoto.
But Babu Zwane, siyazi abantu bayajabula usebona imoto isipakile egcekeni sebeyiletha ne full tank useyathatha imoto usethazini installment sesoyibona a month end.
Ilelo ke iphutha qala lapho kwenzeka amaphutha.
So we need to stop being gullible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ngoba ngakudayisela imoto ngasiyo yakhe, ngithengisela imoto yomunye umuntu. Fanele ngabe makadayisa imoto abe nawo amaphepha. Uma ngabe selilahlile akwazi ukuthi ayocela elinye lapha ku registering authority bamenzele elinye iphepha, akwazi ukunika lawo maphepha lawo kanye nama form the NCO forms awasewagcwalisile naye anamagama akhe, and then ukwazi ukuthi uhambe ngawo kuyoshintsha ownership.
And then Babu Zwane, in this instance ngeza kwena John at Davidton, just hold on for me. Kule instance Babu Zwane where umuntu mhlambe uthengisa imoto akaqedi nebank ukuthi ayithengise, how then do you ensure, because the bank will not release leyo Lokhuzana certificate of ownership?
Yeah, kumele interact nalelo bank aqedele ukubhadala leso sikweletu esele ukuze ibank likwazi ukukhipha la mali.
So basically you're saying it's illegal for umuntu ukuthi azame ukuthi adayise le moto either engaka notify ibank ukuthi uyayidayisa because usenesikweletu sebank, and two akanawo nje iLokhuzana akanaso isifiso sokuthi ufuna ukunotify ibank, ufuna ukwenza yena a private sale, athatha imali angatsheli ngisho ibank ukuthi ukhokhile.
Ngoba imoto akabe yakhe.
Okay.
Fikela khokhela ibank yonke imali yakhe.
Okay.
Sase leyo moto kusase imoto yebank.
All right. Okay. Hey babukeli, I hope ukuthi niyezwe ningadayisela abantu imkokotelo yeyimoto. But John Davidson, thank you so much for staying on the line baba. Siyakwamukela ohlelweni, ungasibuza umbuzo noma ubeka umbono Nsizwa.
Okay, sisi uJohn phela kodwa ke ngilayite John. Mina nginenkinga ke ngathengisela umuntu imoto ngangamnikeza amaphepha sasengakimi wonke nje.
Okay.
Kodwa ke savumelana ukuthi ke kumele abhadale idisk yemoto each every year. Namanje akakakhokhi, ngikhokhela i1 nasengimthengisele.
Okay.
Manje nginemoto eziwu2 kahle. Mangiyoyithela lezi imoto eziwu2, idisk aliphumi kuthiwa ngiyakweleta enye imoto ekumele ngiyikhokhele. So ngibuza ukuthi ngenza kanjani ngoba lo muntu akayibhadali idisk yemoto.
Okay.
So ibambe ezinye imoto zami eziwu2 amadisk.
And then Babu John, kwisale yenu usakhokhela imali yakho yonke yale moto obumdayisele yona and imoto ihamba ngayo currently?
ya kusasele u20,000 angakanginikezi wona.
Oh kusole 20,000 and then uyalokhuza uhluleka nje ukuthi akhokhele amalokhuzana license disc. Mumfonela babuthini uthi uhamba kanjani ngale moto ngoba phela ilambu leyo moto leyo akumele ihambe idisc ingalokhuzile ingasebenzi.
Le moto ihambisa local ngoba ngikhuluma ngemoto eseMatsulu eMpumalanga akayiphumesi ukuya etown umalelana ro spread or white trip ujika nje around lapha eMatsulu.
Okay. Also uyisebenzisa for business baba.
Yeah, for business lapha eMatsulu.
Okay. All right. Okay baba babu John ngicela ulalele lapho sizubabuzwane if ever sidinga anything inumber zakho sinazo la kwilungelo lakho sizokwenza follow up. Babuzwane uyamuza ulokhuzana ubabu John ukuthi uthi inkinga yakhe yini. Uthi lo muntu uyahluleka ukuthi akhokha ama disc because the guy is still owing him 20,000 rand. So I suppose this is his leverage to say up until he pays the 20,000 rand he's not going to give him the complete information for the total ownership details. What happens then in this instance, because he's saying he can't get the license for his other car now because it's showing that on the system his other car is still owing for the license discs.
On the system imoto isasegameni lakhe.
Okay.
Isasemagameni wakhe le moto aka change ownership and therefore uye kumele akhokhe.
Okay.
Ngoba akaqedanga le process yokuchange ownership anikeze lo muntu ayidaselene nayo imoto. So lawo ma disc nale angayithelelanga isafanele ithelelwe uye before angathelela lezi ezinye imoto.
Okay.
Imali yale moto ezinye bazoyithatha kodwa ngeke bamnikeza ama disc wazo ngoba kunale moto eyodwa
engakashintshwi lokhuzana i-ownership
ngoba iyakweleta. Isikweleti.
And then what happens to ama traffic fines? I suppose nama traffic fines ayakuyena ubaba still.
Nama traffic fines asazoya kuye ngoba ubona ngokomthetho umthetho presume ukuthi imoto angithi imoto yakho so umthetho presume ukuthi ibishayelwa uwe ngaleso sikhathi kufikela wena uprove ukuthi bokungewena ukuthi uhamba ngaleyo moto. So I process and finally aqede le process ukudayisa le moto akwazi ukuthi anikeze lo muntu amaphepha naye athola imali yakhe.
But Warren, you know, this is what we were discussing earlier on, that, you know, it's always the open-ended type of deals that are literally leaving both the sellers and the new buyers in a lurch, because this guy, John, basically, he sold his car.
Yeah.
He still, you know, guy still owes him a substantial amount. And he's saying, but why am I getting the traffic fines? And why am I still, you know, the car is still saying that I'm owing for another disc. So he can't even, you know, get out a disc for his other car.
Yes.
So now in this situation, I just want you to make an emphasis around how important it is for both parties, not just the seller, not just the buyer, to ensure that they complete this process. And maybe just once again, step by step, what is this process? From when I walk into your dealership, Warren, I like your car, let's look at the specs, and can I take it to AA? And we agree. What do we do there?
So you mentioned something earlier with the banks, right? One thing you must remember, until that vehicle is settled, that still belongs to the bank, whichever bank it is that financed that vehicle.
Okay.
So you as a third party coming to buy the bank's not interested in who you are.
Okay.
The bank is interested in the person that financed the vehicle, because the relationship of the contract is between the bank and that individual.
Absolutely.
Whatever money you've paid to that person, and the fact that you lay claim to that vehicle afterwards by saying, look, I paid so-and-so 200,000 rand, it's not my fault if he didn't settle you, I've paid him. That goes nowhere. That vehicle belongs to the bank. The bank will have right to the vehicle. They will repossess the vehicle if the vehicle was not settled, and they will then dispose of the vehicle to recover their money. Now, in a situation like this, if you're purchasing a vehicle privately, there's a couple of things that you can do that will ensure your safety as the buyer and the seller's safety as well, okay? Number one, again, like I said, first things first, go and look at the vehicle. Make sure that the vehicle is actually what it is that the person is saying. Draw up an agreement. Pay the additional cash to have the vehicle gone through by an independent independent company like your DECRA, right? Then what you do is you can approach any dealership. You can even approach the guys that do the queue for you. They will pull a form called a J162.
Okay.
What that does, it is shows previous ownership of the vehicle. And if you see a bank listed in that ownership as the current owner of the vehicle, then you know that that vehicle is still owned by the bank. And chances are, if the seller hasn't said to you, they still need to settle a portion of that vehicle with the bank. The seller is required to get the settlement documentation from the bank, right? Because unfortunately, if you contact the bank doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
So they're not going to provide that information to you. So the seller needs to provide you with a settlement letter, or once you're going to sit down and do the payment, they need to basically, you need to ensure as the buyer that the vehicle is settled.
Okay.
You have proof that the vehicle was settled. Then what happens is the RC1 or the NATIS document will normally be couriered to the owner of the vehicle by the bank. No, the old owner.
Oh, the old owner, okay.
Once the vehicle, once he gets the NATIS, the onus then falls onto the seller to transfer that to you and hand that NATIS over to you for you then to go and do the roadworthy and do the full change of ownership on the vehicle within 21 days.
Okay, Warren, hold that thought. Let's quickly go to break because there's so many details. Because I'm very interested in indabeni yemoto. Sabuye emva kwaleli khefu ngasifonela nawe usitshela ukuthi mhlambe uma uthenga imoto kumuntu yizipho wena izinto abakudrobhe ngazo. Sabuye emva kwaleli khefu. Mbogeli, welcome back. Ingcingo zivoliwe 0117140669, alternatively 0117140670. consumer@sabc.co.za is our email address uma ngabe ufuna ukusibhalela ingxoxo noma ke usithole lapha on our social media platforms. Okay, asiye kuMpho ukhona la eJoburg. I think uMpho la eJoburg. Mpho, thank you so much for staying on the line. Sakwamukela ohlelweni. Sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ube kumbona.
Okay, sawubona sisi.
Kunjani sisi Mpho?
Ngombuzo la.
Yebo sisi.
Nginenkinga yomuntu engamthengisela imoto 5 years back.
Okay.
So lo muntu lo obhadalile imoto wayiqeda, sanikana amaphepha, akafuni ukuyichange akafuni ukwenza i-change of ownership. Iloko ibiza ngami namanje.
Okay.
So nginenkinga yokuthi every year kumele ngifonelane naye ukuthi ayobhadala i-bill.
Oh, okay. So zonke ilokhuzana izinto iseza kuwena sisamathikithi nayo yonke into.
Akawathola amatikiti but ngiyasaba nje ukuthi makangayenza inkinga isegameni lami. Zonke inkinga zakhe zobuya kimi.
Sisimpho uthi yini inkinga yakho ukuthi angafuni ukuthi niyoregister imoto ngoba phela lento izokwenza nayo impilo yakhe ukuthi ibe lula.
Angazi ke ngoba namaphepha akuye yonke into kuyi.
So wamnikeza yonke into wena yonke imininingwane.
So mina ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi yini kumele ngiyenze ukuba safe.
Okay, all right. Babuzwana, angenza njani? Siyabonga sisimphoza.
Nawusisa ngaya kwi-registering authority ayokwenza i-change of ownership. Agcwalisela amaphepha
Yena herself.
Yena herself.
Okay.
Asho ukuthi imoto leso udayisele bani.
Okay.
So that owner that change can then be done on the system and then amathikiti angeke asaza kuye.
But how?
Angithi unayo i-idea lo muntu we assume.
We assume unawo amalokhuzana ama-details alo muntu amdayisele.
Yes, angacela ukuthi bamenzele i-copy yephepha le moto and then agcwalisele change of ownership imoto bese kulo muntu amdayisele imoto iphume egameni lakhe.
But Babuzwane, if the process was that simple, wherein if I, as the seller, the private seller, can then just automatically go and hand over ownership to the new buyer, why do I then have to wait for the compliance of the person who's buying the car? Because this person clearly does not want to go and change the ownership here moto, even though the seller has already given them all the information that they needed.
It's to protect yourself from possible crime that can be committed. Usebenzisa le moto is to protect yourself. You don't have to pay for traffic fines that were not caused by you, and nalama renewal of discs notices should not come to you. So uyazivikela nawe ngokuthi uhambe uyo-change le ownership.
And then nangu uyarefuse ababuzwane. So what is her option? Umpho ufuna ukwazi ukuthi okay, so uzoyaphi yena, uzoya kunini RMTC, uzoya
No, ngaya kwi-registering authority noma kuphi la ngilahte noma
afika abatshethi ngalonyaka. I mean, it's been 5 years since she sold the car.
Uzogcwalisa list change of ownership forms.
Yeah.
Asho ukuthi imoto udayisele bani kanjani, and then that will be captured with system. Kwaziwa ukuthi
also the car basically is out of her hands.
Out of her name.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah, it's very interesting. But you see now, Warren, this is what confuses me. If a seller does not want to go and actually be the one that is, proactive in making sure that all the necessary T's and dots are crossed out, and then the buyer is also not, it causes for a very confusing situation. Would you then say that it's recommendable to do this private sales, particularly of vehicles? And does the Consumer Protection Act apply in this private sale that we're talking about?
So here's the thing, right? Remember something. When it comes to a private sale, there are pros and cons. The pros being you might get the vehicle for a lot cheaper than walking into a dealership or an auction and purchasing the vehicle, but there are risks that are attached to that. You will then be purchasing the vehicle, and anything that goes wrong there goes for your pocket, right? Now, the thing is you should surely want to have the vehicle registered in your name.
Absolutely.
Because that is proof that vehicle belongs to you. Now, the RC1 or the NATIS is that vehicle's birth certificate.
Yeah.
That document is the ownership of that particular vehicle. Now, the onus on you as the buyer, I mean, when you insure the vehicle, if you've paid cash for the vehicle, surely you want to be able to prove that I own this car.
Absolutely.
This car belongs to me. Now, I know there are sometimes people that will buy a vehicle and just drive the vehicle because in their mind, if I don't transfer the car into my name, I don't have to pay license fees, I won't get fines, it will go to the previous owner, they'll sort it out. But that's going to work for a year maybe.
Yeah.
At the end of that year, you're going to get pulled into roadblocks and they're going to want to know, why is this disc expired? Now, here's the thing. If it is a clever traffic cop that pulls you over, he's going to check who the owner of this vehicle is, right? And he's going to compare your ID document to who the owner of the vehicle is, and he's going to say, listen, there's a bit of a problem here. If it goes further and the traffic cop is not believing your story, he will impound that car.
Exactly, because you're basically driving a stolen vehicle.
100%. It will go to Johannesburg. Now, what's going to happen is you need to go and prove that that car is yours. How are you going to prove it without the document, without the NATIS document, without the RC1?
Thank you for putting it like that, Warren. Let's go to Patrick all the way in Witbank. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show. Umbuzo nomumbono baba. Patrick, please turn down your TV set. Khona ngizokuzwa kahle. Patrick, are you still on the line?
Yeah, ngikhona ma.
Yebo baba, ngicela ungehlisele nje kancane umabona kude nsizwa khona sizozwana mina nawe.
Okay.
Yeah, uzozibona lapho mase urepeater uyabona kusasa uzozizwa kahle.
Okay.
All right baba, sengiyakuzwa kungaqhubeka nombuzo.
Umbuzo wami lapha futhi ngithenge imoto. Ngathenga imoto kumuntu 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, manje le moto ngayithenga kulomuntu wanginikeza ikhophi yencwadi zemoto.
Okay.
Yeah, and then nayingikezwa le copy uthi njalo mangabe kufanele ngithele imoto mina angikwazi ukuthelela le moto. Mara njalo makufanele ngiyothelela imoto kufanele ngifonele yena angilethele idisk.
Okay. Okay.
So umbuzo wami ukuthi kusuke kwenze njani le moto isuke inani uma ngabe umuntu ezokuthengisela imoto mara still bangabe ufanele
ufonele yena
ngiphelelwa uye wena uzokulethela sekulethela idisk.
Yebo baba Patrick, ithi ngikubuza ungakahambi baba, njengoba uthi wakunikeza ama copies elokhuzana emniningwane emoto, nahamba nayo sayina imoto wayibona ifakwa egameni lakho na ya register leyo moto ngawe, even though ukunikile ama copies, because akusho ukuthi mekunika ama copies automatically iregistiwe imoto or sekwe yakho.
Wanginikeza lamaphepha.
Yeah.
Mara ukuthi siyokwenza i-change of ownership azange saya.
Okay.
And mangimbuzo isisa akaphumeli straight obalo ukuthi why.
Okay. And then abakuhlupha ama-traffic cop but Patrick muhamba ngale moto mhlambe bakumise bathi kunezinto ezithize nje ezidingakalayo ngaleyo moto.
Awakaze ngihluphe.
Awukaze uhlupheka. Okay bafo ngezwe insizwa yami ngiyabonga kakhulu ngicela ulalele lapho kumabona kude. Babuzwane, this is very interesting. Warren, Patrick bought a car years ago. The owner, the seller gave him copies of what is supposed to be registration information, never took him to officially register the car.
Yeah.
But listen to this is the best part. He literally told the guy every year when he wants the disc, he must call him so that he pays for the disc and brings it to him. What happens when this guy dies?
So I can tell you now, most probably what happened there is that guy needed the cash. He sold the car, he's still paying the bank.
Yeah.
Doesn't have, he applied for a copy from the bank and he gave that copy to the buyer, and that's why he's saying to the guy, come back every year and come and get the disc, I'll pull the disc for you. So he's still paying that car off, right? And most probably at the end of that period, he's then going to say to the guy, well, here's the registration documents, transfer the vehicle into your name.
4 years later.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's illegal. And the bank, if as it is there, that is fraud, basically. That's fraud.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're going to talk further on that. Mbugeli, let's take another quick commercial break because ngathi abantu bakangilela ngaphandle ngiyanikhuza. We're back shortly after this with more of Yilungelo Lakho. Mbugeli, welcome back. 011-714-0669, alternatively 714-0670. Those are the Magic Studio numbers ongasithinta kuzona lana uma ufuna ukubeka wakho umbono noma usibuze umbuzo mayelana nokuthi uma uthenga imoto from a private person, ngisho ukuthi uyithenga ku-Alisha, uyithenga kubaba uThaka, uyithenga kubaba uZwane, imiphi imigomo ekumele uyilandele. Hayi ukuthi nje kuvane kuthiwe mina sayina sekuyahanjiwa, akusetshenzwa kanjalo. Ungasifonela ke la e-studio Mbugeli sikhona futhi across all our social media networks. All right, so sinaye uBhuti uSipho and Nigel on the line. Bhuti Sipho, thank you so much for joining us namhlanje baba, singakusiza kanjani?
Yebo sisi nginenkinga la ngathengisela abantu imoto
Yes.
abafuna ukutshintsha i-ownership yayo imoto mabaqeda lapho bathengisele imoto bayithengisele omunye umuntu le moto le bebangayitheleli ngize ngahamba ngayothelela imoto leyo ngisizwa uye lo muntu abamthengisele laba engibathengisele abafuna ukutshintsha i-ownership mawuthi ababuza bakutshela ukuthi lo muntu othenga imoto usemsebenzini.
Hayibo. Bhuti Sipho bese beqedile ukuyikhokhela le moto kwena baba?
Baqedile sisi ukuyikhokhela ngo-2021 ngoMeyi.
Bayidayisa nini?
May 29.
And then bayidayise how soon after sebeqeda ukuyikhokhela?
Bayithengise this year ngoFebruary.
Oh, okay. And then imininingwane yalomuntu wena uze wayithola kanjani baba? Yalomuntu oseyithengile kubona manje lo usebenzisana naye.
Futhi imoto le iyarenka la sekayenzile okhanda umuntu oyithengisile. So ngize ngavimba lo mshayelo oyishayelayo. Ngathola ama-phone number omnikazi we-owner yakhe. And then ngayifonela i-owner yathi ngingcono ngihambe ngiye traffic department ngiyofuna i-quotation yomthelo ngoba bese kolota i-disc unyaka wonke.
Oh, okay babu Sipho. Okay babu Sipho ngiyabonga kakhulu, ngiyacabanga ukuthi indaba yakhe babuzwana icishe ifane ka Patrick. But ngicela nje uthi ukumphendula ubaba ukuthi angenzani uBhuti Sipho okwamanje nje obuchazile ekuqaleni.
No, uBhuti Sipho angaya i-licensing ayokwenza i-change of ownership yena. Agcwalise lama form.
But now there's a third party who's bought the car from the people that bought it from him. It gets interesting. The first person, yes. Okay.
So akahamba ayoshintsha ayishintshele kulabantu ayidayiselene nabo imoto and then ukuze iphume egameni lakhe.
Okay.
Angazi amatikiti angaloku abuya kuye nalama license disc angazubuya kuye ngoba makunje amatikiti noma yini enzakalayo ngale moto azobuya kuye ngoba ayitshintshwanga i-ownership kulo muntu omusha uyithengile.
Okay. Sitheka mbuya phu ukuyiyela yena ukuyoshintshela ilokhuzana i-ownership
licensing department.
Okay, noma iphi licensing department.
Yalahlala khona yeah.
And then babuzwane but ubungozi kule situation le qede uchaza baba usipho ukuthi you find a situation where wena uthengisela umajali imoto umajali use decide ukuthi singakashintshi ownership sengiyahamba mina sengidayisela uWarren imoto. Is that even legal?
No, that's not legal.
Kusetshenzwa kanjani phome kunjalo baba?
Abantu bayenza umshikashika wabo. Ingakho ukuthi umuntu akwazi ukuthi azivikele yena. Zihambisele wena amaphepha ukuthi uyotshela lapho ukuthi sengishintshile le moto ayisekho egameni lami indlela ongazivikela ngayo leyo ngoba uzayilindela ukuthi lo muntu omdayisele enze leyo process. What if athatha isikhathi abanye abantu banokubheka ukuthi i-disc yale moto i-expire isanobo 8 months.
Yebo.
Athi hayi ngizohamba ngayo ngeke ngishintshe kulo 20 ngizohamba ngayo ngizaze ngishintshe mhla
kuphela i-disc yeah.
Kuyinto engekho emthethweni kwayona. Fanele ishintshe ngaleso within the 21 days.
Warren, how interesting is this? Maybe let's talk about all the illegal practices that some of these private owners and some of these dubious dealers are actually just pushing through yes. as if it's part of the system, that because basically consumers are not checking all their checks and balances. Yes. What are some of those things that buyers need to look out for? Because I understand we're having a conversation of you saying that basically it's not just even individuals that yes. are selling to each other. It's even certain dealerships that have given the rest of the industry a bad name because of their dubious processes.
Yes, remember something. Purchasing a vehicle for a lot of people is quite an emotional thing. It can be the first vehicle in the family,
yep.
right? And it's a big thing. So at that specific time, you know, you're so excited about this new vehicle that you're not looking at the admin bits that need to get taken care of in the background. First of all, a valid roadworthy certificate is a must, right? Then we were chatting off air regarding the RC1 and the fact that there are people out there that make fake documents and sell the vehicles with fake documents. Now, again, there you've got to do the basics. When you purchase the vehicle from that specific dealer, again, I would insist always on just doing your check, your J162 checks. At the license department, it costs you 80 Rand, right? There are queue for you guys that will do it. All they'll require from you is a picture of the vehicle's license disc, right? And they will be able to give you a printout and show you what's going on with that vehicle. It will show whether the vehicle was financed by the bank. If the vehicle is dealer stocked or the name of the vehicle shows there that it was in an insurance company's name at some point, it means the vehicle was written off at some point in its life. So it was written off and sold as a salvaged unit and then resold into the market. Now, what is happening at the moment is the banks are becoming very aware of the fact that a lot of vehicles that have been written off are finding their way back onto the...
What do you call those cars again, Warren? Schedule what cars?
So when you write off a vehicle can be written off for a couple of reasons, right? It can be uneconomical to repair. So what happens is on the RC1 document, it will still show as a used vehicle. Okay. When the vehicle has been written off beyond
repairs, beyond roadworthiness,
then they do what they call, they code 3 the vehicle or they code the vehicle, and on the paper it will say scrapped. It will have that written on the document. That vehicle is not financeable. The bank will not finance it. That vehicle can be insured, but only for 70% of its value. Now, coming back to the original document, now, what would end up happening there is the buyer needs to make sure that the documentation that is being handed is the real thing.
Absolutely.
And simple checks and balances that he can do before that will ensure that. Number one, you know, before you go to the dealer and purchase from the dealer, look the dealer up, right? Social media is a wonderful thing. If there's other people that have been robbed by the specific dealer, trust me, it will be on there, right? Second thing is if you are unsure, you can ask the dealer for a copy of that specific RC1 document. You can go to the licensing department and say to them, listen, I'm interested in purchasing this vehicle from such and such a dealer. Does this vehicle show on your system that it is stolen, recovered? What information can you give me?
Okay.
They will be able to furnish you with that information. All those small things save you in the long run.
Yo, babukeli niyezwa ke izinto ekumele nizazi. Let me quickly go to Gary. Gary's been staying on the line. He's been on the line forever. Now, Gary, sakwamukela baba ohlelweni singakubuza, ungasibuza umbuzo noma ubeka umbono namhlanje.
Yeah.
Yebo, Gary. Go ahead.
Yeah, ngithi mina yazi ngibe nenkinga yokuthi ngithengisela omunye umuntu waseZimbabwe ilozana imoto yami. Alright, wangibhadala kwathi mase kusele boma 3,000 something wabaleka wahamba nayo. And noma nathi ngiyafundisisa angisakwazi ngeZimbabwe ngithi. Basala vele ngayekela. Manje inhliziyo yami solo ibuhlungu ukuthi awunkosami lo muntu wami nemoto yami akayiqedanga. Yabo. So ngaya license department bathi lozana iscratch vele ngasosebenzi. Mara inhliziyo yami sesobuhlungu ngoba akayiqedanga lemoto.
And then Babu Gary ubusu lokhuzile wena bese nishintshile ownership completely nalo baba waseZimbabwe.
Bengakayitshintshanga so serious.
Bengakayishintshi. So okusho ukuthi kahle le moto ahamba ngayo isathi igama lakho kahle. Okay, all right, ngezwe Babu Gary sizoxoxa nawe emva kwaleli khefu. Ungayindawo buka lapho kumabona kude wakho ukuthi sibone ukuthi ungenza njani. Mbukeli, i-numbers are on the screen. We'll be back shortly after this. Ningayindawo. Ngibona lento ethi it's our final segment angikholwa mbukeli okusho ukuthi sengizoyivala ke ingcingo but 011-714-0669 alternatively 714-0670. Those are the magic numbers zala studio. My guest today, Mr. Simon Zwane ovela RTMC, as well as Mr. Warren Tucker. Yena is an independent car dealer. Sikhuluma ukuthi mbukeli uma wena uthenga imoto privately sisho ukuthi awuyi-apply la ngebhenki uyithenga kumuntu iziphi izinto ekumele uzazi because ngathi abantu banvala amehlo. All right, so babuzwana siyamuzwa lana uGary udayisela imoto. We don't know if it's a legal or illegal foreigner, but the guy decided to drive across the border with the car without ever having changed or transferred the ownership still. Kodwa naku imoto idlulile eborder. So now ufuna ukwazi ukuthi kumele enze njani because ama-fine ngathi nezinye izinto zisezakena, but what worries him the most is that he was still owed an outstanding balance for le moto, but imoto ayisekho. For all we know mhlawumbe isisemaputo.
Hayi hambile leyo moto fanele akaxole nje. Hambile mase ingale kweborder.
Ayikho into enikwazi ukuyenza.
Ayikho into ngane kakhulu ngenze.
So even if angayidi-register babuzwane yini angayenza ukuthi ngoba phela babuzwana ngithi le moto le i-ownership ama-details asekuyena. He hasn't transferred ownership, he hasn't changed ownership. So does that mean ukuthi in any eventuality mhlampe mebuya lo baba ezim engena and there's like some prudent cops abamile, then it can be picked up from the system? So does he have to deregister imoto yakhe as his or kumele enze njani ngempela?
Angayiregister makafuna ukukhipha emagameni akhe kuze ukuthi mangabe isetshenziswa for ubugebengu ingambandakanye kodwa mangabe uyayifuna imali yakhe angaya futhi ayi-report as a stolen car so that mhla ibuya bangakwazi ukuyibona ukuthi na le moto iyafuneka.
Okay.
Ngoba utshontshelwe yona.
Okay.
Lezo zinto zimbili angazenza kodwa ihambile mase isize yadlula iborder.
Warren, this is not information I'd like to give my viewers. I always want solutions. So if you're saying that the car is gone, it's gone. So basically we're saying people need to be prudent. Yeah. Also, don't just hand over the car without also having received maybe your full amount and also all the necessary checks and balances have been checked. But Warren, here's an interesting question that we got from the floor. He says he bought a car through a bank.
Yes.
Now, obviously, that means he went through a dealership, right? And the bank financed it. And then he says he never got the RC1 document. And then only when he got into an accident, they wanted the actual registration of the car. But how does that happen? Because I know for a fact that if you're looking for a certificate of ownership, you can either ask for a copy or you can do whatever, but the bank should be able to give you that. If they don't want to, for their own reasons, they'll tell you as well. But I mean, how did this guy go through the proper processes of buying a car through a dealership, and then he's financed by the bank, but this car, obviously, none of the checks and balances were ever gone through?
So somewhere in that process, there's something that took place. There's an admin issue there.
Yeah.
So just to
on
walk
whose
you,
side though, Warren?
most probably on the dealer side. But just to walk you through the process, when the dealer purchases a vehicle the dealer will buy the vehicle cash. If they've purchased it from an auction, they pay cash for the vehicle. The auction gives you the vehicle, the keys, and the RC1, the NATIS document.
Okay.
The dealer then takes that vehicle, that NATIS, and they register it into their name. It's what they call dealer stocking. So it's loaded onto the dealer's profile at the licensing department, ready for sale.
Okay.
So then what happens is you come along and you finance the vehicle. Okay, so the bank, you apply for finance through the dealer, right? And the bank grants finance. Now, the dealer's contract with the bank it goes one of two ways. Some dealers, very big dealers, have something called NATIS dispensation, where the dealer will get paid once on signature of the contract, and they can present the delivery note.
Okay.
Other dealers that don't have that have to register the vehicle into the bank's name and your name, because that's how it works.
Yes.
Furnish that document to the bank, then they get paid, right? By the bank. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked.
Yes.
So for the fact that the bank is now saying that they don't have the
RC1 document,
it means they
yeah.
were not given that document by the dealer. So the dealer then is responsible to hand that, not the buyer, not the person that purchased the vehicle. And remember, he will only get a copy of that until the vehicle is paid off.
Paid off.
Then the bank will send him the original, and then he'll transfer it from there into his name, both title and owner.
But then, very quickly, because I don't have time, Babuzwane, so angenzani-ke lo muntu, because uthenge imoto and he went through the proper channels, as Warren is explaining, but uzithole senkingeni, and it's not his fault. So where does he bring ilokhuzana, ama-complaint wakhe to Babuzwane?
Angithi uthenge ngebank.
Yes. Oh, so it goes back to the
bank or the
dealership.
banking ombudsman for the banking sector ayocomplain akhona bangakwazi ukuthi mhlawumbe ba-intervene bamsize la.
All right. Okay. That's where we're going to leave it. Mbukeli, thank you so much for joining us namhlanje. Unfortunately, I have to wrap it there. I had so many questions, but I know my director is going to kill me if I even put in a small question there, as we are all completely out of time. Mbukeli, thank you so much for joining us. Join us again next week for another live consumer affairs discussion. Khona la ku SABC 1 ne SABC Plus. Owajala umntana uthi unithanda nonke emakhaya. Nisale kahle.
Yilungelo